Have you ever felt like you are living someone else's life? Like you wake up every morning and go through the motions, but deep inside there is a voice screaming that something is fundamentally wrong with this reality? I remember the exact moment when I first understood what that voice was trying to tell me. It was 3 in the morning, and I was sitting alone in my apartment, exhausted from another day of chasing goals that felt hollow, surrounded by everything society told me should make me happy, yet feeling more empty than ever before. In that darkness, something inside me broke open. And for the first time in my life, I asked a question that would change everything. What if the life I am living is not really mine? What if something, some force or intelligence, has been feeding on my consciousness, my energy, my very essence, keeping me asleep while it harvests what makes me divine? That night, I stumbled upon an ancient teaching that had been deliberately buried for nearly 2,000 years. A teaching that Jesus himself gave to his closest disciples, but that the institutional church made sure would never reach the masses. What I discovered shattered every belief I had been taught about spirituality, about salvation, about the very nature of reality itself. And here is what terrifies the powers that have controlled humanity for millennia. Once you understand what Jesus actually revealed about the Archons and the sleeping state they keep us in, once you see how they feed on unconscious human beings, you can never be their food again. Everything I am about to share with you comes from texts that were hidden in the Egyptian desert for over 16 centuries, because the knowledge they contain is so explosive, so liberating, that if humanity ever awakened to these truths, the entire system of spiritual control would collapse in an instant. Before I reveal this suppressed Gnostic knowledge that could free your consciousness from archontic feeding, if you are a sincere seeker of hidden truth and you want to continue this awakening journey with me, subscribe now and activate the bell, because what comes next will unveil secrets that have been concealed for millennia, and you will not want to miss the next teachings I will share with you as a friend and guide on this path. This channel exists for seekers like you, and I want to walk beside you as your mentor and companion as we reclaim the gnosis that is your birthright. In the next minutes, I am going to reveal exactly what Jesus taught about the Archons, these parasitic intelligences that exist in dimensions just beyond our normal perception, feeding on humanity through a mechanism so subtle that most people never realize they are being consumed. You will discover the specific sleeping mistake that turns you into food for these entities, the mistake that billions of people make every single day without knowing they are offering their divine essence on a platter. And most importantly, you will learn the awakening practice that Jesus gave to his inner circle, the practice that makes you completely indigestible to archontic forces. But I need you to understand something crucial right from the start. This knowledge I am sharing with you was not hidden because it was false or dangerous to your well-being. It was hidden because it is so profoundly true, so utterly transformative, that it threatens every system of control that has been built to keep humanity asleep and compliant. When the Council of Nicaea gathered in 325 CE to determine which texts would be included in the official Bible, they deliberately excluded dozens of Gospels and teachings, particularly the ones that revealed Jesus as a Gnostic teacher showing humans how to recognize their own divine nature and break free from the archontic prison of this material realm. The texts I am drawing from today, the Gospel of Thomas, the Gospel of Philip, the Apocryphon of John, and the Testimony of Pistis Sophia, these were buried in a sealed jar in Nag Hammadi, Egypt, where they remained hidden until 1945. Why were they buried? Because in the 4th century, when Orthodox Christianity consolidated its power, possessing these texts could get you killed. The knowledge they contain, the knowledge that Jesus actually taught, was considered so heretical, so threatening to religious authority, that entire communities of Gnostic Christians, the Cathars in France, the Bogomils in Bulgaria, the Paulicians in Armenia, were systematically exterminated for preserving these teachings. And what was so dangerous about what they knew? They understood that Jesus did not come to create a new religion or to establish a church hierarchy. He came to reveal that human beings are divine sparks trapped in a false reality, imprisoned by forces called Archons, and that the way out is not through belief or obedience but through gnosis, direct experiential knowledge of your true nature beyond this illusion. Let me take you deeper into what Jesus actually taught his closest disciples about the Archons. In the Apocryphon of John, one of the most explicit texts about this, Jesus appears to John after the crucifixion and reveals the true structure of reality. He explains that this material world, the world we perceive with our 5 senses and accept as the only reality, is not the creation of the true divine source, but rather the product of a lesser being called the Demiurge. And this Demiurge, sometimes called Yaldabaoth, is the god of the Old Testament, the jealous god who demands worship and obedience. But here is where it gets truly shocking. The Demiurge is not the ultimate divine reality, not even close. It is an ignorant entity that mistakenly believes itself to be the supreme God because it cannot perceive the true pleroma, the fullness of divine light that exists beyond its limited realm. And this Demiurge, in its ignorance and arrogance, created the Archons, these parasitic rulers of dimensions between the material world and the true divine realm, and together they constructed the matrix of physical reality as a prison to trap the divine sparks that had fallen from the pleroma. Now you might be wondering, if we are divine sparks, why do not we remember our true nature? Why do we feel so trapped, so limited, so unconscious of our divinity? This is where Jesus reveals the mechanism of the trap, and this is the knowledge that changes everything. The Archons keep humanity in a sleeping state, a state of unconsciousness where we identify completely with the physical body, the ego personality, the material world, and forget that we are actually infinite divine awareness, temporarily experiencing limitation. And here is the truly insidious part. While we are asleep, while we are unconsciously identified with our false self, the Archons feed on our energy. They feed on human emotion, particularly the dense, heavy emotions of fear, anger, shame, guilt, and despair. They feed on our life force, on the divine light that animates our consciousness, and they have constructed an entire reality system designed to keep us generating these emotions and remaining unconscious so they can continue feeding on us without us ever realizing what is happening. Jesus called this state of unconscious living being asleep in the world, and he was absolutely clear that as long as you remain asleep, you are food for the Archons. In the Gospel of Thomas, saying 28, Jesus makes a startling statement. He says, "I took my place in the midst of the world, and I appeared to them in flesh. I found all of them intoxicated. I found none of them thirsty, and my soul became afflicted for the sons of men, because they are blind in their hearts and do not have sight. For empty they came into the world, and empty too they seek to leave the world. But for the moment they are intoxicated. When they shake off their wine, then they will repent." Do you hear what he is saying? Humanity is intoxicated, drunk on the illusions of this material realm, blind to their true nature, and Jesus came to help them sober up, to shake off the wine of unconsciousness and wake up to what they really are. Before we go deeper into exactly how the Archons feed on unconscious humans and what Jesus taught to prevent this, I want to pause here and ask you something that very few have the courage to answer with complete honesty. Have you ever felt that you do not truly belong in this world? That something is fundamentally wrong with the reality that everyone else accepts as normal, as if your soul remembers something that your mind has forgotten? This sensation of being a stranger in a strange world, of seeking answers that no one around you even seems to question, is the first whisper of Gnosis awakening inside you. If right now you recognize that you have always felt this deep spiritual restlessness, this thirst for hidden truths, I want you to do something powerful. Write in the comments right now the phrase, "I awaken from the sleep of ignorance." Do not underestimate the power of this public declaration. When you decree that you are awakening, that you no longer accept the imposed illusions, something fundamental shifts in your consciousness. And beyond that, by commenting, you are helping the algorithm carry this Gnostic knowledge to other sincere seekers who at this exact moment are wandering lost, searching for the same truths as you. Do not keep this knowledge only to yourself. Right now, I awaken from the sleep of ignorance, and allow your declaration to serve as a beacon for other pilgrims on the Gnostic path. Now let me reveal the specific mechanism through which the Archons feed on sleeping humans, because understanding this precisely is what allows you to stop being their food. The Archons exist in what the Gnostic texts call the intermediate realms, dimensions of reality that interpenetrate with our physical world, but vibrate at frequencies just beyond normal human perception. They cannot feed directly on the pure divine light of the pleroma. That light is too high, too refined for their dense nature, but they can feed on divine light that has been stepped down, condensed, and distorted through unconscious human emotion and identification with the false self. Think of it this way: you are a divine spark, a fragment of the infinite source, temporarily inhabiting a physical body in this material realm. In your natural state, you are pure consciousness, pure awareness, radiant with the light of the pleroma. But the moment you forget what you are, the moment you fall asleep and identify completely with your body, your personality, your story, your fears and desires, your divine light gets filtered through these dense identifications and produces emotional energy that the Archons can consume. Every time you react unconsciously with fear, every time you generate anxiety about the future or regret about the past, every time you experience shame, guilt, rage, or despair without awareness, you are literally producing food for archontic entities. The Gospel of Philip describes this process with striking clarity. It says, "Light and darkness, life and death, right and left, are brothers of one another. They are inseparable. Because of this, neither are the good good, nor the evil evil, nor is life life, nor death death. For this reason, each one will dissolve into its original nature. But those who are exalted above the world are indissoluble, eternal." What does this mean in practical terms? It means that while you are identified with the dualities of this world, with the opposites of pleasure and pain, success and failure, good and bad, You are trapped in the Archontic feeding system. You swing back and forth between these polarities, generating dense emotional energy with each swing, and the Archons harvest this energy as sustenance. But when you awaken to your true nature, when you realize you are the consciousness that witnesses all these dualities without being identified with any of them, you become exalted above the world, you become indissoluble and therefore indigestible to Archontic forces. Jesus taught this awakening practice to his inner circle of disciples, and it was recorded most explicitly in the Pistis Sophia, one of the most advanced Gnostic texts we have. In this teaching, Jesus reveals that the key to escaping the Archontic feeding system is to develop what he calls the light body of consciousness. This is not your physical body, not your emotional body, not even your mental body. It is the awareness that you are awareness itself, the consciousness that is conscious of being conscious. When you abide as this witnessing awareness, when you observe your thoughts without being your thoughts, when you feel your emotions without being your emotions, when you experience sensations without identifying as the one having sensations, something extraordinary happens. Your divine light stops filtering through the dense lenses of unconscious identification. It stops producing the emotional frequency that Archons feed upon. Instead, it begins to radiate in its pure form. And this pure divine radiance is not only indigestible to Archons, it actually repels them, dissolves them, renders them powerless in your presence. Let me share with you the testimony of someone who applied this teaching and experienced the shift firsthand. There was a seeker I will call Marcus, and he came to this knowledge in a state of complete desperation. He had been experiencing what he called psychic attacks for years, waking up at 3 in the morning in states of inexplicable terror, feeling presences in his room that he could not see but could definitely sense, experiencing waves of depression and anxiety that seemed to come from nowhere and drag him into dark emotional states where he felt completely powerless. He had tried everything: therapy, medication, energy-clearing techniques, rituals of protection, but nothing worked for more than a few days. The attacks would stop temporarily but always returned, sometimes even stronger than before. He felt like he was being hunted by something invisible, something that knew his weaknesses and exploited them mercilessly. He told me he would lie in bed at night, terrified to fall asleep because he knew what was waiting for him in those dark hours between midnight and dawn. His relationships suffered because he was always exhausted, always on edge, always fighting invisible battles that no one else could see or understand. His work suffered because he could not concentrate, could not maintain the energy needed to perform at his best. He felt like he was slowly being drained of his life force, day by day, night by night, and he had no idea how to stop it. Then he encountered the Gnostic teaching about the Archons and the sleeping state they feed upon. He began practicing the awareness technique that Jesus taught, simply sitting in meditation and observing everything that arose in his consciousness without identifying with any of it. Thoughts would come, and instead of believing he was the thinker of those thoughts, he would simply witness them arising and passing. Emotions would surge, and instead of being swept away by them, he would feel them fully while remaining as the awareness that observes emotion. Physical sensations would appear, and instead of reacting to them, he would notice them as phenomena occurring in consciousness. After 3 weeks of this practice, something shifted. Marcus woke up one night at the usual 3 in the morning, and he immediately felt the familiar presence of what he had been calling a psychic attack beginning to gather around him. But this time, instead of reacting with fear, instead of identifying as a vulnerable person being attacked, he simply rested as awareness itself, watching the fear sensation without becoming it. And here is what he reported. The presence that he had felt so many times before suddenly became visible to his inner perception. It was not a demon in the traditional sense, not some horned creature from medieval imagery. It was more like a shadowy distortion in the energy field around him, a kind of parasite attempting to attach to his emotional body and feed on his fear response. But the moment he remained as pure awareness without generating the fear frequency through unconscious identification, the entity could not feed. It was like it could not even perceive him anymore. It hovered for a few moments, seemingly confused, and then dissipated completely. From that night forward, Marcus never experienced another attack. Why? Because he had stopped being food. He had awakened to his true nature as consciousness itself, and unconscious identification, which is the sleeping mistake that turns you into Archontic food, was no longer his default state. If this knowledge is expanding your consciousness right now, if you feel that you have finally found a trustworthy guide on this Gnostic journey, leave your like now so that more seekers can discover these hidden teachings. And if you have not yet subscribed, subscribe now, because next week I will be revealing the secret teaching from the Pistis Sophia about how to navigate the Archontic dimensions after death, a teaching that the Church deliberately suppressed because it shows exactly how to avoid the trap of reincarnation and return directly to the pleroma. You do not want to miss that revelation, so make sure you are subscribed and have notifications activated. Let me show you exactly how to practice the awakening technique that Jesus taught, the technique that makes you completely indigestible to Archons and begins to dissolve their power not just in your own life, but in the collective field of human consciousness. The practice is simple but profound. It requires no belief, no dogma, no religious affiliation. It only requires your sincere intention to wake up from the sleep of identification with your false self. You begin by finding a quiet place where you can sit undisturbed for at least 20 minutes. Close your eyes and bring your attention to the fact that you are aware, not to what you are aware of, but to the awareness itself. Notice that right now, in this moment, you are conscious. Thoughts are appearing in your consciousness. Sensations are appearing in your consciousness. Emotions are appearing in your consciousness. But you are not these things. You are the space of awareness in which they appear. You are the consciousness that knows they are happening. As you sit in this recognition, thoughts will arise. This is natural and inevitable. But here is the key. Do not follow the thoughts. Do not engage with their content. Do not believe them or disbelieve them. Simply notice that thinking is happening. Watch thoughts arise like clouds appearing in the sky of your awareness. Watch them linger for a moment. Watch them dissolve and disappear. And notice that you, the awareness watching this process, are completely untouched by the coming and going of thoughts. You are not the thoughts. You are that which is aware of thoughts. Some thoughts will be mundane, like planning what to eat for lunch or remembering something you need to do later. Other thoughts will be more charged, perhaps memories of past hurts, worries about the future, judgments about yourself or others. Some thoughts will try to convince you that this practice is not working, that you are wasting your time, that nothing is happening. These are particularly sneaky because they sound like your own inner voice, your own judgment, but they are just more thoughts appearing in the space of awareness. Do not fight them. Do not try to push them away. Simply observe them with the same neutral attention you would give to any other thought. Emotions will arise. Fear might come. Restlessness might come. Doubt might come. But do not identify with these emotions. Do not become the one who is afraid or restless or doubtful. Instead, feel the emotion fully. Feel it as a sensation in the body, as an energy moving through your system, but remain as the awareness that observes this movement. The emotion is not you. It is something you are experiencing, yes, but you are the consciousness experiencing it, not the experience itself. You might notice that emotions have a physical component, a tightness in the chest, a heaviness in the stomach, a tension in the shoulders. Simply feel these sensations without trying to change them or make them go away. Let them be exactly as they are while you remain as the awareness that knows they are happening. Continue this practice, this simple resting as awareness itself, and notice what happens. At first, your mind will try to pull you back into identification. It will generate thoughts like, "Am I doing this right?" or "This is boring," or "Nothing is happening." But these are just more thoughts appearing in consciousness. Watch them arise and dissolve without believing them. Gradually, sometimes suddenly, you will experience a shift. There will be a moment when you recognize, not as a concept but as a direct experience, that you are not anything that can be observed. You are the observer. You are the awareness that has always been present, unchanging, witnessing everything that has ever appeared in your experience. You are the consciousness that was aware when you were 5 years old, when you were 20, when you were yesterday, and that will be aware tomorrow. This consciousness that you are is not born, does not age, and cannot die. It is the deathless, eternal, infinite awareness that the Gnostic texts call the divine spark. When you stabilize in this recognition, even for a few moments, something profound happens in your energy field. The Archons, which feed on unconscious emotional energy, suddenly find nothing to feed upon. Your divine light is no longer being filtered through identification with thoughts, emotions, and bodily sensations. It is radiating in its pure form, and this pure radiance is toxic to archontic entities. They cannot come near you when you are awake. They cannot attach to you when you are resting as consciousness itself. And here is the truly liberating part. The more you practice this awakening, the more it becomes your natural state. You begin to live from this place of witnessing awareness even as you go about your daily life. You still think, but you know you are not the thinker. You still feel emotions, but you know you are not the emotions. You still experience bodily sensations, but you know you are not the body. You function in the world with full participation, but you are no longer asleep in the world. You are awake, and being awake means you have stopped being food for forces that require your unconsciousness to survive. Everything I have shared with you, all the knowledge about the Archons, about the sleeping state, about the practice of awakening, is not meant to create a new belief system for you to adopt. Gnosticism is not about believing, it is about knowing. Gnosis means direct experiential knowledge. You do not need to believe that Archons exist. You need to observe your own experience and see if you can recognize the patterns of unconscious identification that make you feel drained, attacked, controlled, imprisoned. You do not need to believe you are consciousness. You need to investigate directly in this moment. Are you not aware right now? Is awareness not the most obvious, most undeniable fact of your existence? And if you are aware, if awareness is what you are, then what are you afraid of? What can threaten that which is aware of all threats? What can imprison that which is the space in which all prisons appear? I want to leave you with a practice you can begin immediately, right after this video ends. For the next 7 days, commit to sitting for just 20 minutes each morning in the awareness practice I have described. Do not expect fireworks. Do not look for special experiences. Simply rest as the awareness that is aware. Notice thoughts arising and dissolving. Notice emotions flowing through your system. Notice sensations appearing and disappearing. And notice that you, the one aware of all this, remain unchanged, untouched, free. After 7 days, come back to the comment section and share what you discovered. Write not what you believe, but what you directly experienced. And for those of you who are feeling the call to go deeper, who sense that you are ready to fully commit to this path of awakening and want to be part of a community of sincere seekers supporting each other on the Gnostic journey, subscribe to this channel now. Every week I share teachings from the suppressed texts of Nag Hammadi, from the Pistis Sophia, from the Hermetic tradition, all the hidden wisdom that has been kept from humanity by those who benefit from our sleep. Allow me to walk beside you as your mentor and friend as we reclaim the knowledge that is our birthright. You are not a body. You are not a personality. You are not your thoughts or emotions. You are the eternal consciousness in which all of these appear. The Archons fed on your unconsciousness for long enough. Now it is time to wake up. Write in the comments, I am awake, if you are ready to stop being food and start being free. And I will see you in the next revelation, where we go even deeper into the mysteries that have been hidden for 2,000 years. Until then, practice awareness, question everything, and remember that the truth is not something you need to find somewhere out there. The truth is what you are right here, right now, always.